We've been watching tons of beginners play. Elisha actually taught an intro to pickleball class this weekend. And so we got together, we sat down, and we said, hey, what are all the mistakes that beginners are making? We got a list of 8, and we want to talk to you about it. And look, we all make mistakes, but there's a handful of mistakes that beginners make way more often. So we're going to get into that. But even if you're not a beginner, there's going to be mistakes that you make too, especially the one that we talk about at the end that my dad keeps making.
My name's Elisha, this is Justin, and this is the Pickleball Journey channel where we make weekly videos to help you out in your journey. Subscribe right here and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the videos. All right, let's head back to the baseline where we see a lot of mistakes happen at this spot. Now, Justin and I, when we were sitting down, we debated whether to put this in or not, but we see this mistake so often that we really wanted to tell you guys about it. Now, when you serve, when most people serve, their momentum carries them into the court, and what they tend to do is kind of just stay in this spot, in this no man's land. The problem with this, there's a 2 bounce rule in pickleball, where when you hit the serve, the return has to bounce. So if you're standing in this transition zone, or no man's land, if you will, the return can bounce right at your feet, and it's gonna be a lot more difficult. So the tip to kind of do instead of making this mistake is when you hit your serve and you kind of transfer your weight, make sure you get back and stay behind that baseline so that you're ready to hit that next shot, whether it's a third ball drop or a third ball drive. So what we like to say is serve and stay. Stay back behind that baseline so you're in a better position to play out the point.
Oh, hey guys, we're on to tip number 2, which is the common mistake that we see often, and it's kitchen faults. So too often we get in these dink battles and we're just moving too much. Our feet is going everywhere, and then, oh look, we're in the kitchen, or we're dinking like this, and it comes too high here. Give me a little bit of a high one, and I'm on the line, and I'm not even aware of where I'm at. And the problem is that we're moving too much. So we don't know where we're at, and we get caught hitting the ball out of the air. So what we want to do instead, I'm gonna focus on being planted, and I know right where my feet are at. If I need to move, I'm just taking 1 or 2 steps. So I'm taking 1 step over here, taking 1 step in, but I'm always coming back to this spot here. So if I take a step in, I know where my reference point is, and I can come right back to that spot.
All right, another big mistake that we see all the time that I even struggle with big time is letting the ball go when it's gonna fly out, okay? So this circumstance is when we're at that kitchen line and we're maybe hitting some dinks and all of a sudden someone speeds it up. Or when someone's driving from the baseline to hit a hard shot. An easy tip to make sure that you're letting that ball fly is if it's at shoulder height, let it fly, especially when the ball is medium to fast pace. If it's more of a lob pace, it's very slow, then you can start slamming it. You might have a better opportunity to win the point by hitting it hard at that shoulder level. But if it's at that medium to fast pace, if it's at that shoulder height or higher, just let it fly and it's gonna go out. It's really tempting at any kind of level to kind of hit that ball because it's a great opportunity to be aggressive. So when you let that ball fly, you create in your opponents kind of a doubt in their shots in the future so that you can now create some errors in their drive or their speed ups.
So you've maybe heard the phrase, down the middle solves a riddle, and the reason that is because it causes confusion between your opponents. So if you're on the receiving end of that and you're receiving a ball that's coming down the middle, the mistake we see so often is that there's a lack of communication. So what happens is, the mistake that happens is we'll end up hitting paddles because we're going for the ball, or we don't know who's going for it. And so the ball goes right through us and nobody's touched it. So what you need to do instead is communicate with your partner. A couple of things you can do ahead of time. You can talk about, hey, who should get that middle ball if it comes down the middle? A lot of times it should be the person with the forehand. Now, Elisha's a lefty, and so at this point we both have backhands, but if he was a righty, which a lot of times there's 2 righties playing, he should take that middle ball. Now, if you have a stronger player that you're playing with, maybe he should take, or she should take that middle ball. But just keep in mind, communication is so key. You don't want those balls to go flying past you, and you don't want to break your paddles because they're not cheap. So communicate more efficiently.
Something to add in is understand where the ball is coming from as well. If the ball is coming from outside and it's angling in towards me, I'm gonna more likely take that because it's going away from my partner. So understand where the ball is coming from as well as who's hitting the ball.
Yeah, that's a great advanced tip.
All right, so we talked about a mistake at the baseline where we hit the serve and we chill in this transition zone and then the ball's hit to our feet. Now, we said to stay back in that situation, which is great, especially on the return of serve, but we also want to be able to make sure we get to the kitchen line in a timely manner because that's where we're most likely to win the point. So we can approach that kitchen in kind of two situations. The first is making sure that we're hitting a third ball drop and making sure that we're coming into the kitchen. Now, we don't want to necessarily rush. We want to come into an appropriate amount of time. If we pop that ball up, we need to get ready for that shot. And then maybe it might take 2 or 3 shots to get to the kitchen, but we want to get there as soon as we can, right? The other situation is return of serve. When you're returning serve, you got to make sure you get to that kitchen almost right away because that gives you the advantage with you and your partner being there. So the mistake is seeing that people stay back way too often for way too long and they chill in this comfort zone of like just playing defense. If you just like playing defense all the time, more than likely you're gonna come across a person that's gonna be able to put away the ball almost every time and you're gonna be playing defense your entire pickleball career. Let's work to be on offense, get to that kitchen line and be aggressive.
All right, this next mistake sounds funny, but it's actually the mistake of watching the ball. Now, of course, it's good to watch the ball, but we don't want to only watch the ball. So too often we see players, the ball goes over to the right side of the court and they just watch it. They do nothing else. Or the ball goes to the left side of the court and they just watch it. Now, what you want to do is you want to be shifting with the ball. So if the ball moves over to the right, we want to shift over to the right. So then we're covering that side of the court. The ball shifts to the left, we want to shift more to the left. So don't just watch the ball, but watch and move with the ball.
All right, so I always talk about the progression of pickleball. Consistency, placement, and power in that order to be focused. Now, what you can add into that power section is also spin and trying to be too fancy. This is really important at an advanced level, but when you're starting out as a beginner, make sure you keep it simple and consistent. It's always easier to have a nice open face and just move towards your target like normal, like this. So if I'm hitting this ball, I'm just moving my paddle straight towards my target, keeping my face of the paddle square to where I'm hitting it. I'm not hitting a lot of spin on it. Now, if I start trying to do this, right, doing cuts and spins, right, and top spin like this and doing fancy shots. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong. It's just harder to do than the simple dink or the simple drop. Master the simple stuff and the consistent stuff first, then get more complicated as you improve your pickleball skills.
All right, I'm excited about this last tip because I keep telling my dad to stop doing this, and he's a good player, but I see beginners make this mistake all the time, and that's hitting the ball too hard from down low. Now, beginners hit too hard in general from all areas of the court, but way too often when that ball comes short, we'll show some examples here, but the ball's short and you're below the net and you're hitting the ball hard. There's no way that you can get that ball to come down into the court when it's below the net. So if the ball is below, I would say even your waist and you're halfway up the court, this is the key tip. Don't try to hit that hard, but just get that back into the court, nice and easy, and get ready for that next shot. Hey, if you guys are liking this content, be sure to hit that like button and leave a comment below on which mistake that you're making most often. Before you go, be sure to check out Carbon Pickleball and use code PBJourney10 for 10% off any paddle or Carbon Pickleball gear.